in brightest day, in blackest night. All other podcasts tremble in fright. Losers cower before the power. Oranges lust and blues you can trust. Indigos feel and white ones heal. Yellows scare and green ones dare. That sapphire love and black hands glove will rock your foundation without hesitation. Chad and Mars face evil's might. Respect their power, for they'll make you see the light.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chad Bokelman.
I'm Mark Marble.
And this is the LanternCast.
Episode 644.
That's right. Tonight we are actually talking about a special as opposed to anything in the ongoing series right now.
Which ain't special.
Yeah.
I don't mean this. I meant that what's going on in the Green Lantern ain't special.
Yeah. For sure. This is the Justice League Intergalactic special, which continues a couple of themes that have been going on in the DC universe. Just sort of a one-shot sort of check-in on some of these themes as they build towards other things. Like this story, apparently is set to be continuing in the Pride special and stuff. Just, kind of skipping across the DC universe. But it features Carol as the leader of an intergalactic representation of the Justice League, basically out on a specific mission. So we'll just dive into it. Jadiza Axelrod and Nicole Maines are our writers. Travis Moore is our artist. Tamara Bonvillain is our colorist. Hassan, I won't even try to say his last name because I feel like I'm going to offend somebody, is our letterer. And then obviously Andrea Shea is our editor and Paul Kaminsky is our group editor. I'm gonna try and keep this succinct. There's a lot of words in here, a lot of personal interactions and stuff. And I feel like if I try and get a little detailed on this recap, I'm going to end up diving more deep than I intend. So we can just circle back on any specifics when we start talking about our thoughts on the issue. Over on Naltor, the lanterns are a group of lanterns are there to look for Narf and Kelly, who have gone missing. The Naltorians are under some sort of psychic control or spell of the dream of the Witch Queen. The "We all dream of the Witch Queen" echoes throughout everybody's all the residents' voices here. And we see that all the lanterns have been, kind of taken out and everybody is passed out in front of this Witch Queen. We cut back to the House of Secrets where our characters, Galaxy and Dreamer, are talking to each other. Galaxy's trying to recruit Dreamer to the upcoming mission that she's about to be a part of. And Dreamer's main thing here is, hey, I'm actually kind of like a fugitive from the League. We'll talk about that a bit later. Has to do with stuff in Absolute Power. They have a long-standing friendship between the two of them. And Galaxy can't convince her, so she goes flying off. Meanwhile, we have Carol and company. We cut to Naltor where they have arrived to try and figure out what is going on. The rest of her team is Adam Strange and Green Arrow, and then Galaxy's dog, who we don't really need to know this, but just so you guys know, he's like a prince, some sort of person. But anyways, they're there to just help the situation over on Naltor. It's revealed that the reason Green Arrow was brought along is because of the relation to the Witch Queen, which is a callback from, I believe it's Green Lantern number 82, Green Lantern, Green Arrow. where we got introduced to the Witch Queen in the GLGA series, and she is Sinestro's sister. So there are reasons for certain people to be here. Galaxy has a unique ability. She has the ability to manipulate energy, which sort of makes her an OP character versus lots of characters, especially like Lanterns. So she's definitely there for a reason. Dreamer shows up to kind of warn them that because she's, been seeing these visions. They end up taking on the Witch Queen and taking her out. Honestly, I feel there's, because I'm paging through this and a lot of this is just interaction and talking back and forth and talking about how Dreamer is on the run, or just should be apprehended on sight type of thing, and her relationship with Green Arrow, who technically was also against the Justice League and company during Absolute Powers, how those two are in the same boat. So all of this stuff, why does Green Arrow get a pass and blah. It's just, there's a lot of personal interaction here. I don't mean to disparage all of that, but they end up taking on a few Lanterns that the Witch Queen has now controlled and sent against them. They're trying to tick off Galaxy so that Galaxy can come under the spell of the Witch Queen and be in her power. Adam Strange has a nice conversation with her and talks her down. She's able to call the rings off of the Lanterns that are influenced, so they are no longer a threat because of her ability to manipulate energy. And by the time they get to the actual Witch Queen, she's taken down relatively fast. And Dreamer and Green Arrow have a nice moment where they trust each other, and all is well. Back on the Watchtower, Dreamer and Galaxy continue their conversation. Galaxy's trying to get her to join the Justice League, and Dreamer still is against all that, and they end up passing out on the floor. Here, a solicit that this will be continued in the upcoming Justice League Dream Girls story in the DC Pride event that'll be releasing in June. That's probably as best as I can do without diving into those specifics, because like I said, there are pages where it's mostly words.
Yeah, I like the dog.
Yeah. Did you like? I don't know his background. This is the first time I'm ever reading him. When he ends up flying the ship, does he like have little finger things that come out of his paws, or what is that?
Trying to go back to that page. It's possible because he's just a robot, right? Let's take a look. Oh yeah, he does. He has little robotic claws, like fingers that come out. So yeah, he's able to. He may not have thumbs, but he definitely has fingers. So I guess he's capable of flying
shifting
it
in some way. Yeah. It's interesting. I would have a problem with Galaxy's like species is like their ability if Galaxy's planet apparently wasn't wiped out. So there being only one of her, because that's a pretty OP power to have, especially against Lanterns. The fact that she can just cut through constructs or take them over or rip rings off of, which the rings thing, they do make a point of saying if the Lanterns weren't under the spell of the Witch Queen, she wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
So at least that's not, even within their own narrative, they're not going too far with it. So that's cool that they're putting limitations on it. But that's a very interesting character to have a just sort of the antithesis of the Lanterns to go against.
Yeah, I would say that. The artwork, as you pointed out when we talked, the artwork's pretty good. Certainly better than anything we were getting in the regular Green Lantern book. I thought it was an interesting choice to have Kelly and Narf in here. I'm not quite sure. I guess that was their attempt to tie it somewhat into what's going on, even though Carol kind of rambles on about stuff related to what's been going on in the main Green Lantern book too. But I guess this is a way to tie this into to make it maybe slightly more appealing to people who are actually reading Green Lantern. Mm-hmm. But even though I know not that Kelly and Narf would be the packing them in, generally speaking, but I thought that was an interesting callback since those Lanterns are specifically there on Naltor looking for Kelly and Narf. I also appreciate that the callback is you suspected that it was going to be the callback to that old issue of Green Lantern and that it was Sinestro's sister who was the Witch Queen. So I thought that was That was good. Obviously there was a sizable amount of Green Lantern tie into this, even with obviously Carol, even though she may have been the leader of the team, but she wasn't really in the book all that much per capita. Including when she got taken over. You didn't really go into that, but she got taken over just like
Oh, yeah.
essentially just like the Lanterns did. But this book is really built on Dreamer and Galaxy. So if you don't know them or you don't care about them, this book is going to have much less appeal than if you do. Ollie's pretty much there just for, again, maybe for sales and eye candy, but he doesn't really do much of relevance. And of course he's a tie-in to the original meeting for the Witch Queen, so that's their justification for having her in. Like he's going to be the Witch Queen expert. Not that that really helps all that much, I guess, entirely. He does a little, but with the arrows towards the end, but it's still more Dreamer and Galaxy. So I mean, again, it's like we've talked about recently. It's this, and maybe this is where my spider sense reacts to it more. That the idea that this book is again built around two relatively unknown or characters that don't have much of a background and most people don't know much about or care much about, and this is what this whole special is built around. And I'm not sure if if the Justice League team and stuff that Carol is on and some of these characters, if that's where that those books are going, concentrating so much on these characters too, these newer characters. But I guess I'm just a little wary, a little gun shy, considering how much we've seen this happen with Jeremy, but Kennedy before that. He did it arguably even more so than Jeremy did in the beginning, and now Jeremy's kind of on the bandwagon too of either introducing a new character, your own characters, or bringing in characters that maybe were introduced somewhere else but really were never developed, and building everything around it, which can work depending if it fits into the story or the mythology that you're writing, which is probably the biggest issue with what's going on with Odyssey, is that she has no ties to the Green Lantern Corps at all. It's not like he's writing about a new lantern he just created, or was just discovered, a character that theoretically, even if it's retcon, did exist before, but now we're getting to see the character. Like Raker Karragat, using Karragat as a good example, as a lantern that we never knew existed, but obviously had a long and important history in the Corps. It's okay. I mean, I like you mentioned, it was very wordy, lots of words on in this book, lots of conversations back and forth. And again, a lot of the conversations aren't going to matter much because unless you're familiar with these characters, then it's not going to resonate at all. It was enjoyable for what it was. If you take out if you took out the Green Lantern ties to it, I don't even mean taking out Sinestro's sister. If she could have still been in the book, but if it wasn't that there were a bunch of lanterns that were captured and ultimately being used against them, would my interest in this book have been even less than it was? Yeah, significantly. But it was worth a read.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we talked about it a bit offline, but like, I understand your hesitation especially with what Jeremy's is doing, and what Philip Kennedy Johnson had done with bringing in his stuff into the ongoing series. But I think the difference, obviously, as we talked about, is that Philip Kennedy Johnson was given his own Green Lantern series and decided to build a story around his previous IP, and tie the two together so that he got a chance to tell that story ongoing. Jeremy is doing somewhat of the same thing by introducing some of these characters. We don't know. This is a little bit different because he's creating these characters within the story as opposed to pulling them in. Like, obviously we had Hal go up against that villain, that Flash villain, not too long ago in the Flash crossover issue. But Jeremy's starting to kind of do the same. But the difference here is our creative team, the creator of Galaxy with Jadiza, and the actress Nicole Maines, who played Dreamer on Supergirl and got a hand in introducing her to the DC Universe continuity, because she was also, I believe, the writer behind that story, that her first appearance and stuff like that, and other appearances since, and those two getting to work together and continuing the story in its own one shot, as opposed to pushing it into the arc of a main series. But it's just sort of this story that's been crisscrossing across well, obviously, at least with the Lantern elements, the GLGA stuff is part of it. But like in terms of the Dreamer and the Galaxy of it all, Galaxy had appeared in that recent 6-issue series for Hawk Girl that was like maybe 2 years ago, something like that. And they explored that. The Dreamer was one of two people, along with Green Arrow, who was working for Waller during Absolute Power. So you mentioned, you were talking a bit about Green Arrow kind of not being there for anything other than to look good and his ties to the Witch Queen. But the fact that both he and Dreamer were working for Waller during Absolute Power, but Green Arrow is welcomed back with open arms and Dreamer is a fugitive from the JLA, and those two having a chance to face each other and talk to each other, that's an interesting dynamic of exploring that. And that's one of those things where, like, with that conversation we've been talking about that John should be having with Katma, that ended up only taking a single page. I feel like the dynamic, the inequality between what happened to Green Arrow versus what happened to Dreamer, despite those two being in the same exact situation, was a conversation that needed to be had, but in titles as big of a cast as Justice League or Justice League Unlimited or any of that other stuff, it's hard to take time out to focus on those things. So the fact that you have a couple of different reasons to tell the story and to make it its own one shot, and finally take the time to address that one thing, to sort of flesh out the personal interactions and make this more, there is action, sure, to be had on the page, but there's also some deep introspection and some relationship dynamics being played out here, which is nice. And it gets its own one shot to do that, as opposed to being shoehorned into a current ongoing or whatever. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair way to do that if we're going to just give creators the opportunity to continue to sell their stories however they want. I'd rather they do it in like a one shot or mini series or something like that, as opposed to shoehorning it into an ongoing.
No, I agree, because it's a special. It's easier to swallow it. And you're correct. The backstory, the tension, the unresolved issues related to Oliver and what Dreamer really going back to. Yeah, of course, referencing Absolute Power over and over and over again in this series. Yeah. I mean, this is special. I mean, I know obviously why they do it, but it's kind of beating you over the head, especially since we've kind of moved on from Absolute Power a while ago now. And I don't know how successful that one was. I mean, I don't think it was as successful as like DCKO was. But yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, it still means nothing. It still means nothing to me. If I read Absolute Power, in all honesty, then maybe some of this interaction and this unresolved, this double standard and this two sets of rules. And while, Ollie was like the Tony Stark of Civil War here, according to the movie version. I mean, you can make a case even the comic version, but I meant the movie version more. And we'll kind of forgive him now because hey, he's one of us. But no such luck. Yeah, it is something worth exploring. I mean, it does make for an interesting discussion in the book and outside the book. But again, to me, it is somewhat interesting too that the characters in this book, that arguably a lot of the characters that are the most well known, are the ones that get pushed to the back burner.
Yeah, I would have liked Adam to have more to do, but they did give him a nice moment between him and Galaxy when he's calming down Galaxy. So that's at least something. So it's better than nothing. The art is the standout here. It's enough to keep me interested and continuing to page on, even through anything that maybe I just found like, oh, this is wordy. We're really talking about a lot here, but it just kept me going to just see the art. I like that Carol is in charge of her own team, but also like we see some development with her, because initially she's very letter of the law. She's like, hey, what are you doing here, Dreamer? You shouldn't be here. You've no clearance, blah, blah, blah. To the end of the issue, she's not only accepted her as part of the team, she's ready to vouch for her with the rest of the league. I like the relationship between Galaxy and Dreamer, and that these two have this friendship, and Galaxy is clearly pushing Dreamer. And I feel like I agree with sort of both of their points, but I do think Dreamer should come back to the league. But I get why she's not. But they do it in such a way that it's not like, okay, I agree with kind of both of them, but they're also both kind of wrong because Dreamer they both seem very stubborn because Galaxy won't stop pushing to the point where it's a constant topic and she's just challenging her at every moment, which you'd think like a good friend should challenge you. But also like they let it get to the point where they're just screaming at each other by the end of the issue. So it's like, your friend's made a decision. Can you let it go? So she's not like this flawless character. So that's interesting, an interesting dynamic. Also something interesting. Have you ever heard of Alex Jaffe?
It sounds familiar.
So Alex is basically like a DC Comics sort of historian in some ways. He was a guest a lot on the Dr. DC podcast. They would have him on to talk, certain history and so on and so forth. So he's just a professional DC Comics expert. He has a show called Insert Credit, but he would do these posts like, hey, if I'm going to make this tweet and for every like I get, I'm going to name an obscure DC Comics character or something, and it just becomes this massive thread. So I actually asked Jadiza over on Blue Sky hey, what inspired you to pull the Witch Queen? Because we saw her once and only once, and we've never seen her again. And she responded that Alex Jaffe's thread where he mentioned an obscure DC Comics character as the Witch Queen back in December 12th of 2024, that post appearing in her thread from Alex made her choose him or made her choose the Witch Queen. And she responded, the short answer is Jaffe reminded me she existed, but she says also, I'll give a long answer on Friday. And it's Wednesday as we record this. So there's apparently a deeper reason, but also, there's a reference in this issue where like Oliver is like messing around with some stuff in the ship, and Adam says, "Careful, Green Arrow, that's a time grenade from the Chrono Knights of Savoth. Don't touch it or don't let it go off inside the ship." And he ends up using that later in the story, obviously. But apparently Jaffe also consulted with Jadiza on this because she knew she was going to use the Chrono Knights, but she was trying to find a good home planet for the Chrono Knights because they'd never been, I guess, established with a location or something in the DC universe. So she reached out to Jaffe, and he's the one who suggested Savoth. So like, there's these weird little Easter eggs all over here because like Jadiza was consulting a DC Comics expert behind the scenes on things.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So that's really cool. And I don't know. I like the obviously after the fact, after reading it and hearing these stories about Jaffe's involvement, I like the amount of research that clearly went into this. I like that no character seems utterly flawless. They all seem to have personal development and everything in here. I think that Galaxy's power is, as I've mentioned several times, is really OP against Lanterns, but there's only one of her, and they don't push it so far that like she can just take their rings off their fingers nor under normal circumstances. So they provide their own inherent limitations. I don't think they did the Witch Queen dirty here. Not that there's much to go off of based on previous appearances, but they resolved this conflict between Dreamer and Green Arrow in an interesting way. I don't think it's like the most amazing comic I've ever read or anything. I'm not just trying to sing its praises, but I think it's actually artistically, story-wise, I think it's a pretty fun issue.
Yeah, I would agree. For what it is, I would agree with that. I think it's interesting enough to keep you reading, and at least even with characters that I don't know much about and don't have a great interest in, at least for the majority of the time, the story made me at least okay. I mean, more Dreamer, I think, than Galaxy, because I think because Galaxy was put in the foreground most of the time, and she was kind of blowing a gasket too, understandably so. Even though that's kind of a trope too at this point, like, hey, the last survivor of a dead world, And it's tying it into Green Lanterns too. It's like big surprise.
Yeah.
You didn't save my planet. It's like join the club. We have jackets.
Yeah. I should also mention that I have an additional tie to this because yes, obviously we have Lantern stuff happening in here. The other reason I like this is because of Dreamer. I like Dreamer because I have three favorite Legionnaires. We have Dawnstar, we have Shadowlass, and we have Dream Girl. Dreamer is one of the ancestors of what will become Dream Girl. So I know about Naltor, the planet that she's from, and so on and so forth. So I've been following Dreamer for a while, and it's also interesting to me that she's never been to Naltor or whatever. This is her first time here. She knows a lot. She maybe has problems with the Naltor, like she wouldn't be accepted on the planet for some reasons, but at the end of the issue they end up asking her to be like to teach them or whatever, and she denies that. Like she's technically being welcomed in such a way that they're asking her to teach them so like she wouldn't be ostracized by Naltorians, but she turns that down. So that's also interesting development to me. That's just
Yeah,
one thing. I wanted to mention that earlier, but I saw we were wrapping up. I was like, oh, I forgot.
yeah, I can see that too. I think it's also the fact that they just need someone to basically make their decisions for them or always steer them in the right direction. So I mean, it was easy. It was in a way she could see. It was easy for her to perceive it not just also as potential weakness, but just okay that I'm sloppy seconds here. That's not really the me.
Yeah.
It's you're not really taking me because you want me. You're taking me because hey, I'm the only show in town that's close to what you had, so that's why you're willing to take it. So
Yeah. And that's nice introspection. So, all right, what's next?
well, let's do what I've seen because it'll be quick. I saw Mother Mary, which is the Anne Hathaway movie. It's weird. It's hard to describe. It's hard to even describe my feelings on it because it's so slow in developing that even though it was a matinee, I still dozed off in it. Twice, as a matter of fact. That's how slow it was. And I don't think I missed all that much because I think the movie is supposed to, based on most of the reviews that I've seen of the movie, it's kind of vague about what exactly happened and how much is, if they make it sound like it's a horror movie and it's really not a horror movie, but how much supernatural elements are in this movie, I think is greatly dependent on the eye of the beholder when all is said and done. She's like a Lady Gaga like pop star who's seemingly needs a dress desperately in a short period of time, and she goes back to her former friend who used to work with her in designer dresses all the time, but she kind of got shown the door unceremoniously. So there's a lot of personal issues between the two characters, but it's the majority. I'm going to say probably like the first 45, 50 minutes of the movie. There's not a whole hell of a lot that happens. So it's really slow. I'd like to watch it again at some point. It's another A24 movie, and I think A24 is making way too many movies, which is probably why the quality of their movies has really gone down. But I would like to watch it again, but I'm sure since it's A24, it'll be on HBO Max at some point, so it'll be worth catching up there.
You think A24 is already stretching themselves too thin as a studio?
Yeah, I think so. I think I can't help but think there's some truth to that theory.
The bloom is off the rose, basically.
Yeah, I can't help but think that there's some truth in that because it used to be A20. Even if the movie didn't necessarily resonate with you, that A24's movies were going to at least be really interesting and make you think, and probably land more than they didn't, even if you weren't 100%. So, like, I'll use this as an example, even though I like this movie for the most part. Opus. I liked Opus. Opus didn't make any money, but I liked Opus. But is Opus Midsummer? Is Opus Ex Machina? Things like that, or even Heretic? No, I don't think. I think they've had more misses than they've had hits lately, and I think that's a problem. It should be on HBO Max because A24 movies, based on their contracts, always end up at some point until the contract changes, obviously. But they currently all end up at some point on HBO Max. So I will watch it again. At least that way I can break it up in parts, and I could also fast forward through the parts that I know I already saw and get to the little, because there is some part about whether implying that she's possessed by something, and because there's a medium there, and that's how Anne Hathaway supposedly becomes infected. And so I kind of fell asleep right before what led into the seance or the media or the around the Ouija board or whatever it was. And I saw the actual event, and then when her friend and the dressmaker and Mother Mary, which is the rock star name, that they actually are going to try to do a ceremony to get whatever is out of her. I kind of dozed off in that too, just because it really was slow. It was I mean, it's certainly unique. It certainly stands out as an individual piece of art. I don't know how effective it is. And again, and I give Anne Hathaway credit. I've said this before, not to be mean, but I don't think without makeup, I don't think Anne Hathaway is particularly attractive facially. But I give her credit because she is certainly willing to take her makeup off in a lot of movies, and this is one of them. She has her makeup. She kind of looks homeless for the majority of this movie, other than when they're having flashback scenes or when she's performing on stage, which is good for her because she gets to sing in another movie. It's not Les Mis, but still. So I would say it's probably worth taking a look at when it comes on streaming, but I would certainly don't think it's worth going to see in the theater. And the only other thing I'm up to date with Mall. Mall ends on Monday. I must admit, ironically, that the episodes that just dropped the week we're recording this. But for some reason, I don't know why they're dropping these on Monday morning at 3 a.m., Sunday night / Monday morning. It's a very odd time to be dropping something. I don't quite get the logic in it personally. But I was, for the first time since the show started, I was consciously aware that, hey, tonight's the night that it's going to drop. So I actually stayed awake to watch these when they dropped. And maybe it's because of the fact that I did. They were still good episodes, but I actually was a little disappointed. I would say this was my least favorite batch of 2 episode drops so far. I'm hoping the last 2 episodes that wrap up the season will be better. And I guess based on where these episodes leave off, that if we're going to get the Vader Maul showdown, and it's pretty safe to say there's no reason to believe it's going to happen in this season, which makes sense. It should happen probably towards the end of the series, whenever that happens to be. But it would make sense, because I thought it to myself, if they have Vader and Maul square off at the end of season 1, like, how are you going to top that going forward? That kind of puts a big cloud over, puts a lot of weight on your shoulders. But that's it for me.
All right, what's next?
I suppose we should talk about, since we were talking about HBO Max, we should talk about some of the latest news, quote unquote, controversy, confusion about the Lantern show, which at least we have, on the positive side, at least we have a final target date. We know when the show is going to drop for the first episode, which will be August 16th, Sunday, August 16th. Probably 9 o'clock. They didn't give us a time, but in all likelihood, it will be 9 p.m. since that's the prime time slot to drop these shows like that on a Sunday night. So yeah.
Is this good news? I saw someone posting, and I have the tweet here in front of me. They posted the new trailer that dropped, which is the same trailer. We'll talk about it. I'm struck by the fact that this is going to be a Sunday show. Man, if that's the case, then HBO is full of confidence with Lanterns. They don't just put any show on Sundays.
Well, I think most people, I think, have assumed this was going to be a Sunday show, which is probably why it's coming out when it is. Because I believe House of the Dragon will come out first. So House of the Dragon, if that's the case, it's only 10 episodes. That will probably be the show that follows it. As in replaces the 9 to 10 o'clock time slot on Sunday night. I think all along, I remember, because the show originally was an HBO Max exclusive show before it became an HBO show. So the concept was always, I think, that it was going to be most people believed it was going to be a 9 o'clock show. I don't know why people really thought it was not going to be a 9 o'clock on Sunday show, but
gotcha.
Maybe.
So it's more of a foregone conclusion as opposed to
I think so. Yeah,
a deliberate decision because they have faith in it, you think?
Yeah. I don't think, let's put it this way, I don't think there's a shift in this. I don't think it's where they were so impressed with what they saw. We had to move it. We had to give it that slot. I think it was always being aimed for that slot, which is probably one of the reasons why it was not going to. I mean, yes, in theory, they could have released it before House of the Dragon. Like I said, we don't know if there's anything in Supergirl which there's any kind of lead in to the Lantern show which made it more important or logical that Supergirl came out first, or they just, like we talked about, or they decided to put something in even as a post credit scene to lead directly into Lanterns. But the reality is, I think this is probably one of the reasons why it was being slotted in the time of year that it was, because it was going to be the show had the end of summer into the fall show that was filling their like the Sopranos slot and True Blood slot and all their biggest Sunday night shows have always been the 9 to 10 o'clock slot. So
Yeah. And then we have what's been happening with the teaser itself. The teaser was taken down online a few days ago, and there was some speculation out there about it as to why it was taken down. Two primary theories, essentially, being that it was taken down because of the backlash that it received online from people, and that it was they wanted a second chance at a first impression, or what it ended up actually being, which is a change in the music, because I guess something was up with the rights or something about the music in the
oh
first
yeah, I heard that too. Yeah.
the first iteration of the teaser, because they dropped the new teaser today as we record this, which is Wednesday, April 29th, and it had a new score added to it. So that seemed to confirm that the music was the reason for taking it down. However, and I retweeted this as I was scrolling through Twitter today. Someone posted that the Lanterns trailer had been removed from YouTube again. And it was apparently the new version was only up for 2 hours before it was taken down again. So there's lots of speculation out there as to why DC is doing this. Apparently, I was reading online that it's actually not uncommon for DC or for HBO, or rather, to take down teasers for music related issues and have to re-put it back up, because apparently this happened with Peacemaker season 2 and Creature Commandos, their trailers. And then that same person also mentioned that it happened with before with Euphoria, which I didn't know that. I don't pay attention to Euphoria, so I don't know if that's true. But apparently it's not uncommon.
Yeah, I mean, it probably has something to do with that. It probably does. I don't see why it would be taken down for any other reason. I mean, I know a lot of people are speculating. Oh my God, does that mean something's wrong with the show? Obviously, that theory is thrown out the window now that we have an official release date. That so any idea that something was wrong, they were unhappy with something, or yeah, I think. If they're really and if it was people's reaction to the trailer at first, well, when you drop the next trailer, there's your chance for people not to care about the first trailer anymore. So,
yeah, I think the people who are just saying it was taken down because DC didn't like the reaction and they want a second chance at a first impression and all this. I think they're letting the wish be the father of the thought.
Yeah.
I don't. It doesn't like, I'm not as intimately familiar with the movies and TV show scene as you are, but doesn't a teaser like that, especially for a project that seemingly big, have to go through dozens of eyes before it's ever released? So I think the fan backlash would have to be so intense for that reasoning to be true, because it seems like by releasing the teaser they made their decision, and quite a few people were involved in making said decision. So I think they're full on behind their approach to this, and I don't think taking it down for the reason of just trying to get a second chance at a first impression made any sense.
Yeah, there has to be more. There has to be more to it, as far as trying to choose my words carefully. Whether it's just the music the score for the trailer, if you will. There's got to be something like that. I don't think it has to do with the content, because it's been out there for a while, so why take it down now? If they were going to put out a brand new trailer and they only wanted the current trailer to be out there for multiple reasons, including maybe the fact that they didn't like some of the reaction, I could see that a little bit, but obviously that's not the case because we didn't get anything new. So, yeah, I think that's much ado about nothing in the big picture at this point, because they did give us the release date, which is important. House of the Dragon is June 21st. So the way that would work, obviously, it's possible that maybe House of the Dragon could have two episodes dropped, maybe, for 1 week, or Lanterns maybe is going to be a 10 o'clock show, at least to start with, and they'll have it piggyback on at the end of House of the Dragon, trying to get a natural audience, or strike while the iron is hot. It's like putting I'm trying to remember that name of that show. Was it John from Cincinnati? Well, Cincinnati, or whatever the hell that weird show was that they dropped, that premiered right after the night of the Sopranos final episode. That whatever they did, it didn't last, obviously, but that was a golden opportunity to try to get an audience by having a tail come right after the end of the Sopranos final episode. So it could trail. It could be the follow up to House of the Dragon, or House of the Dragon will have. I mean, well, first of all, I'm assuming it's 10 episodes. I probably should double check that. If House of the Dragon is only 8 episodes, then it works perfectly, because it'll end right. But I don't know. I certainly wouldn't be worried about it. Of all the things for us to worry about as Green Lantern fans regarding the show, the fact that they pulled down, at least for now, that first trailer, I don't think that's the thing to be concerned about.
Yeah, for sure. Otherwise, I think that's it. There's one thing I wanted to mention, because I mentioned this last episode with regards to the special we covered today. Since a lot of people may not know, there is there a Green Lantern or Green Lantern Corps or whatever issue out next week? Yes, there is an Absolute issue out next week. We're not covering it, but also next week, if you didn't know, the Tales of the Green Lantern Corps Guy Gardner #1 special comes out next week. So if you're already pulling regular GL stuff at your local comic shop, I'm sure your LCS is probably assuming you're going to get this too and might pull this for you. But in case, on the off chance they might not be, you might want to call your comic shop, and if you're hearing this before the Wednesday of the 6th that this comes out, May 6th, I hope you reach out to your LCS to get your copy of the special, because Justice League Intergalactic may not have a lot of bearing on current Lantern stuff, but I assume this might have a little more.
It could. You would. It's certainly if you were a betting person, you would bet that it would have more.
Yeah, for sure. And hey, it won't be by any of the creative teams that are currently working on Green Lantern, so it'll be a fresh take of something, I would hope. Hopefully a good one. We shall see.
It would be nice.
All right. Well, if people want to reach out to us, what do they do?
And before we do that, House of the Dragon is indeed 8 episodes.
Okay.
So the timing part, the last episode is supposed to be August 9th, so you can pretty much take it to the bank that Green Lantern will get the Game of Thrones House of the Dragon time slot, because it's set up for it. So if you'd like to contact us, sorry, I'm stretching. LanternCast.com is the website. LanternCast@gmail.com. Best way to contact us. You can follow us on Blue Sky, Twitter, Facebook. #GeoCast to track us down. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, wherever you listen to us on. Please leave us a positive review. Last but not least, if you'd like to leave us a text or a voicemail, 708-LANTERN, and let us know what you think.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.